I think there's a real builder thesis underneath it. And this conversation is about pulling that thesis out and understanding why he's building on Sui.
So I've spent the last 15 years as a DevOps engineer, right? So I've been building applications at scale since my early 20s. So I know what kind of production grade looks like. So last year I decided to put 100 grand of my own money and started building on Sui full time. And that's when I founded Mission 69B. And it's just a development company, an investment company, just focusing all my resources on Sui ecosystem. So in 4 months since then, I managed to ship 4 protocols, no team, no grants, no marketing, just myself and my conviction, and just really a good stack that helps me deploy and develop at lightning speed. The first one was Faith. So I built Faith. That was launched in November, and it took me about 2 weeks to build. 3 months later, that's now hit 1 mil in annualized revenue. So it's also a top 10 Sui protocol in the ecosystem. And that's when I knew that this thesis was right for me. So I doubled down and I kept on building.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Just the Metrics podcast. Today, I'm sitting down with Funkii. If you have been around Sui, you have probably seen his fingerprints with the Mission, the Faith, Tide, Cannibal, a lot of projects. From outside, it can look a bit chaotic, but I think there's a real builder thesis underneath it. And this conversation is about pulling that thesis out and understanding why he's building on Sui. So Funkii, welcome to Just the Metrics podcast.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. So I can give you a quick intro. So I spent the last 15 years as a DevOps engineer, right? So I've been building applications at scale since my early 20s. And I've then learned a lot of different skills and tools along the way. GitHub, Terminal, how to code, cloud infrastructure, and just how to put everything together along my journey. I've built systems for IBM, Telstra, Optus. They're well-known leading enterprises in Australia. And this is the kind of enterprise software that can't go down. So I know what kind of production grade looks like. So last year, I decided to put 100 grand of my own money and started building on Sui full time. And that's when I founded Mission 69B. And it's just a development company, an investment company, just focusing all my resources on Sui ecosystem. So in 4 months since then, I managed to ship 4 protocols, no team, no grants, no marketing, just myself and my conviction, and just really a good stack that helps me deploy and develop at lightning speed. The first one was Faith. So I built Faith. That was launched in November. And it took me about 2 weeks to build. And that's 3 months later, that's now hit 1 mil in annualized revenue in 3 months. It's also a top 10 Sui protocol in the ecosystem. And that's when I knew that this thesis was right for me. So I doubled down and I kept on building. I can give you some examples, but like, why Sui, right?
Yeah, before we get into why Sui, maybe it is a bit to have, like, you are an experienced developer already. Like, there's like a lot of innovation happening outside crypto, but why are you interested in building in crypto, and why, like, how did you like discover Sui and start building on Sui?
So I've been in crypto since the Dogecoin days, to be honest, since 2013, and I haven't really made many products in the space, to be honest. I've been working full time and just sitting on the sidelines as an investor, and I always struggled to figure out how to build stuff in crypto, mainly around on Ethereum. I was an early investor in Ethereum, and also I believed in that ecosystem at the time. But as technology grew, like Solana came out after that, and the layer 1 boom. And then I was like, okay, let's try and build something. And honestly, could not for the life of me build anything on those chains. It was just plagued full of security issues, and it was just really complex at the time. That's when you start to see more abstraction around different platforms that would launch, that would make it easier to launch different tokens or products on their chains. And then one of my best friends, Tom, he actually works at Mr. Labs. I met him, we catch up all the time, but I met him one Christmas in 2021. And he told me about Sui. He was at Meta at the time. He was at Facebook as one of their lead engineers. And I've known that guy for 20 years. We've been best mates since. And we worked together in Sydney for five or 6 years in our early career. And when he says he's going to a new job, I listen to him and figure out what's this all about. This guy's a 10x engineer. He's like one of the best engineers I know, right? So for him to actually join a crypto startup like Sui, well, there's actually Mr. Labs he joined, that actually caught my attention. And I was like, okay, so what's this Sui about? And I learned a bit more about it through him. And he basically gave me the rundown. He was like, look, this is a new layer one. It's like completely different, built from the ground up, ex meta, and it's just everything aligned. And I was like, okay, at that point, I went all in, all my attention was all in at that time. And then we saw obviously a renewed cycle, and things started changing. And I was like, okay, this ecosystem is actually very new and I can see the potential here. It felt like ETH in the early days, and then Solana as well. I didn't really spend too much time in the Solana ecosystem, but for me, ETH in the early days was very just developers. It was just only developers, hardcore, trying to figure out what's this all about and how can we build cool stuff. And I felt like Sui is exactly the same as that in the early days. And we're only like three and a half years in. It's still very early and there's so much opportunity. People just don't see it yet. And that's what I struggle to understand, because they're building the foundation, they're building the infrastructure first for developers like me to then come in to then build what they want. And that's where I'm like, okay, look, I can build what I want when I like on Sui at lightning speed. Why not try and take the advantage of it? And that's what I'm doing right now. I'm just building nonstop because AI has helped quite a bit. I've got like a pretty good workflow, but I've basically trained Claude, the AI agent, on the Sui framework. So I've got my own mini Claude trained specifically for Sui, and I've got a config file that teaches basically all my coding standards, my patterns, my architecture, how I want to write things. And then I've taught it how to write Move as well. So when I want to start a new project, it knows exactly what I want to, how I want to think, and it will just basically give me a no fluff design.
Like you have explained in a very high level why Sui is different, but to make it more concrete, how is Sui different from your perspective from Ethereum?
Yeah, so one of the main things is move safety. So I tried to write a bug once, and basically the compiler, like when you do like a Sui move test rather, and that's just a command in the CLI, it basically it tries to compile the code for you and run, and this is a very familiar pattern for JavaScript developers. It's like TypeScript, which is like the most used language on the internet, and it just won't compile. It won't let you build it, and it won't let you push to the chain. So it already has like inherent security measures inbuilt. That's like the big one. On EVM, there might be tools that do that, but this is built from the ground up, and it won't let you compile and run that code because there's an error in it. So from my knowledge, it basically tracks the ownership at compile time. So if you try to use the same coin twice, it will be like a runtime exploit. It won't compile. So the language itself prevents entire classes of vulnerabilities. You've obviously heard the object model. So I can give you some examples on that, and how I use it in my products. But so on EVM, like an NFT is just a number, right? And I think it's like a lookup in a table or inside a contract. But on Sui, it's an actual object that lives in your wallet. So you can transfer it whenever you want, and all the data moves around it. So no weird kind of edge cases, no re-entry NC bugs, and the model just makes sense. So we've got an object model. I'm using the Sui framework. There's a module called display. It's a display module. And when you mint a supporter pass, so when you back a project, it mints a supporter pass in the background. And that uses the Sui framework, the display module, to then create a NFT, an object. And that NFT has your full economic position, like your share count, the revenue that it's made, and just the history. But it's embedded in this one object / NFT that then is transferable account to account, traded on marketplaces, etc.
So it's like it has an architecture that enables developers like you to think in a more, it enables you to think, to design safe systems, or like fundamentally compared to, it's not like people cannot make mistake, but from a really fundamental perspective, it enables you to think in a build system in a much safer manner.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the reasons, right? Especially when you're reading things on chain. Sweet gives you these React hooks, and everyone knows, all developers know React and use Next.js as their foundation. That works exactly like a normal front end data fetching. So it's just super simple to integrate to your app. There's no crazy libraries that you need to import or obscure code that you need to understand. It's just caching, fetching, loading the states, all built in. And like I write front end code. So for me, that was just super easy. I just import the Miston Sui module, the NPM module, and that already has all the React hooks I need to build my app. And Sui also has a RPC endpoint. You just connect to that to then listen to the on-chain events. So once your smart contract deploys, you have a bunch of events that you can emit. When you interact with the block with that contract, it'll emit an event like a transaction on that contract, or a deposit, or a transfer. And then your front end listens to that. Anyone can listen to it because it's a contract, right? But you build around that, and you make sure that you have a super smooth UX to build a really good product. Another thing, I love using the normal Sui app wallet, the wallet connector. A lot of developers choose different wallet connectors, but for me, on other chains, I think they're fighting with like different libraries, and it just stops you from doing so many different things, and it just makes too much overhead and bloat for that app. So with Sui, they've built their own dApp. I think it's called dApp Kit on NPM. It's a Mr. Labs wallet connector, and it handles connection state, like error handling. I just import a button component I just drop it into the app, and it just works. It detects everything automatically, Phantom and Slush. And I'm sure like down the road, Miston will probably add other functionality to that as well, right? To add it more user-friendly, maybe even USDC deposits, bank deposits, who knows? But that's the foundation they're trying to build. They're trying to build super smooth, just tools and infrastructure for developers like me to come in and go, okay, this is what I need.
Yeah, in one word, it is much more intuitive to build.
Just the developer experience is way easier.
Yeah. And so we have seen some metrics where the developer numbers on Sui is rising. Do you think Sui is still very early, from in a forward-looking thesis? Like, you are building multiple projects on Sui. We'll get into the details of that. It is still very early in Sui, and there is two parts for an ecosystem to be successful, right? You need a really good infrastructure, which Sui has. At the same time, you need a really strong ecosystem, because there are multiple products you can combine and compose these products. You need a strong ecosystem, and you need builders who are experimenting and trying stuff. In that sense, in your assessment, is Sui an ideal place for people to come and build, or is it like still very early for developers to try things out?
I think now's especially the convergence of AI as well, to make it super easy for developers like me, because like I said, AI understands front-end code, really React, Next.js, all the most popular libraries, and Sui excels on that end. So I think now is probably the best time to build on Sui. And I'll give you some real numbers, right? So I deployed Faith to Sui mainnet about 100 times, and I was testing it on mainnet, not on testnet at the time, during my development. Testing, iterating, fixing bugs, redeploying. Total cost, I think, was a few dollars. Compare that to other chains, like on Ethereum, I think it would have been thousands, maybe tens of thousands just in gas. And I think so I built this game in 2 weeks. It cost me about $300 in total for gas and infrastructure costs. So I used Vercel to deploy all my front end code, and then I have back end code as well that calls the blockchain through Vercel. So I don't know if Vercel, but Vercel is one of the lead. It's like an AWS, but for Next.js, for front end code. And it lets you just connect to GitHub to deploy your code. And it's just super easy to build stuff these days. And I think Sui excels at that. I think the same product will cost 100 times that on other chains. Not just cost, but time. You're spending the time, extra time. And I used to work at a software development company. And this is before the AI boom and before Sui. And we would have customers come in and ask to build an app, and we would quote them 100 grand or 200 grand. It'll take about 3 months. Just a simple app, right? A blockchain app or along those lines. So this is the different scale we're at the moment now, where AI is converging and Sui is obviously excelling in that blockchain space as well. So yeah, I think now's probably the best time to build on Sui.
Yeah, and like going into the thesis of your individual products, you have Mission 69B, you have Faith, you have Cannibal, and you have one more. I forgot the name.
Faith, Cannibal, and Tide.
Tide, exactly. I forgot. So Tide, Faith, Cannibal, Mission 69B. I think Mission 69B was the first one that got my attention. Like I was looking, like I first noticed you with this project. Maybe we can start with that. What is that project and what is the core thesis behind Mission 69B?
Yeah, so like I said, I've been working in engineering for the last 15 years, and I was like, look, I'm done with my day job. I'm going to go all in on Sui. So last year I decided to pivot, quit my professional career to build full-time on Sui, and I founded Mission 69B, and it's a Sui-focused development digital investment companies. I seeded with 100 grand of my own money, and I'm currently working with that full-time, more like 60 hours a day, so 7 days a week. But I'm having so much fun though. Like I'm enjoying building on Sui and building under that umbrella company. But the core thesis is just build protocols and products that scale and that actually have good economic systems. And I think the tagline is freedom, really.
And so it is connected to a manifest token, right? So is it like manifest token is basically connected to all of the products you're building also, right?
Yeah. So when I did start Mission 69B, I seeded that company with 3% of the manifest supply, which is a movement token on Sui. And I also bought $300,000 of my own money, and I actually bought the token as well. So I was like, look, if I'm gonna talk about it on Twitter all the time, I might as well just not do that and just build products that actually use the token instead of talking about it all the time. So okay, let's just build stuff that actually A, use the token, or B, create some sort of burn mechanism that provide utility, because you can only just keep talking about it and not do anything really about it. So I wanted to build stuff around that ecosystem, and maybe not all products use it, but there's still inherent side effects of building these products. So if one project does well, they all do well, and it all bubbles up to the mission.
Yeah. And I think then you launched Faith. Faith is the most successful of all of your products, right? It has already surpassed 1 million in cumulative revenues, as you said. What is Faith?
Yeah, so it's basically a gamified staking and mining game. I built that in 2 weeks for $300 or $400. I've got an idea through a Solana game, which is quite similar. And I was like, hang on, I could actually do this, but a lot better on Sui. And no grants, no incentives, no co-marketing. 3 months later, it's become like a top 10 protocol on Sui. But it's essentially a grid of 25, and there's a countdown timer. And then that picks a block after it uses the on-chain randomness, one of the Sui frameworks, the random module. So it's all randomized on-chain. And once a block has been found, and if you land on that block, and you can pick all the blocks, mind you, and if you win that block, you actually mine Faith in it with every round. So that Faith then gets mined and sits in a bucket called the Radiance pool. And that then grows over time. But the whole concept is, do you claim or do you wait? So it's like a gamification type system where you don't have to claim. Do you believe in a system do you want to earn more rewards by just waiting? And I wanted to create a belief economy, really, and just have a different kind of game that doesn't exist yet, and something that's really smooth, something that just works really well. I may have had a few hiccups in the first week, but I patched them at lightning speed, and now the game is basically self-sufficient, cash flow positive, and anyone can do this, right? And the Sui has the stack to do it, in my eyes.
And what's the kind of revenue you are like, just to understand the kind of sometimes people don't understand the possibilities sometimes. I think sometimes the best way to express possibilities is to talk about the numbers. And in that sense, what are the numbers like regarding Faith? Like what are you generating?
Okay, so 1 mil annualized in revenue. So there's a treasury as well that is, I think there's 80,000 SWI sitting in the treasury. So in total in the last 3 months, it's done 4 million SWI volume as well. So this is people playing the game every minute, every 2 minutes, and there's between 1 to 20 players every minute. And there's a portion of the SWI that they put in that goes to fees, but those fees then get used for buybacks, gets used to go into the staking pool. It also gets used for the seasonal event that we have. We gave away 10,000 SWI the last season, and there's a season 2 coming up. So when one of the vaults hits a certain threshold, 10,000 SWI, we start a new season. This is all revenue and fees generated. So I haven't actually taken a cent out. This is just, I'm trying to grow this to a point where it's self-sufficient and actually becomes a real mean machine on SWI. And I think that it's got the foundation right. And I think it's got the community right. And the next phase is, how do we grow this even further? And I think that's when I had a light bulb moment. After Faith took off, I was sitting on a revenue generating protocol and thinking, how do I raise capital without selling any equity or tokens? And I was like, oh, okay, what if I could sell a portion of Faith's revenue in a non-custodial way? That's when Tide was born. And I was like, holy crap. And I was like, okay, I actually think I have a product here. And that's when I was like, let me flesh this out a bit more. Let me figure out how I can turn this into a spec. And yeah, Tide was born. So Faith is customer zero on Tide. And Faith is selling 10% of its revenue to Tide backers in a completely new way that we haven't seen before.
So you are selling 10% of the cash flow, like the revenue of Faith to Tide backers. What does that mean? Could you break down the whole concept?
Yeah, sure. I'll try to give you a quick run through. So Tide is basically revenue-backed capital formation. So a protocol lists on Tide, Faith, backers deposit SWI, and you get a supporter pass. And that supporter pass is what I explained earlier about the economic position in an NFT. And that's basically that represents their position, their full economic position. And the capital locks and releases to the project, so Faith, on a fixed schedule. In return, backers earn a share of the protocol revenue, not a token, not emissions, not promises, actual protocol routed revenue on chain. And this is all verifiable through DeFi Llama, through the smart contracts, through the vaults, and it's all transparent. And that's the mentality, and that's the vision that I had. And I was like, okay, how can I make this even better? How can I add more features to this? Not just sell the revenue. What are they going to do with this? That's when I was like, hang on, we can actually make this better. And with SWI, so while the capital's locked, so when someone deposits SWI into the Faith pool, then that gets locked over 12 months. But it doesn't just sit there locked. It actually earns staking yield as well. So it's actually progressive. So backers can trade, and so not just staking yield, but backers can also trade their passes on a marketplace, and they can also borrow against their passes with what I call a self-paying loan. So the rewards automatically repay the loan, because each supporter pass has a percentage of the shares that they bought during backing Faith. And when revenue is routed, in Faith's case, every 2 minutes to every supporter pass, and if they've taken out a loan through Tide against their supporter pass, that then automatically pays back the loan. So everything is non-custodial. Once the listing activates, the parameters are immutable. Not even admin can change them. The only thing that the council can do is to protect backers, that pause, cancel if something goes wrong, and return funds proportionally. And I think we just finalized our testnet raise. So Faith finalized the testnet raise, and it raised 350,000 SWI on testnet. One listing, and all the features, marketplace, loan, staking, they all work. And the APY, this is estimated APY, right? So we're not guaranteeing returns. We're not guaranteeing anything. But the APY on Faith right now, even after 350,000 SWI raised, is 15% APY on your SWI. And I wanted to flip the whole raising model. I wanted to flip it because a lot of investors these days, they invest in ICOs and there's so many risks in ICOs. You're getting a token for it may or may not go up. And the thing is with Tide, like it's a different mental model. It's not like you're buying a token. You're actually buying revenue and you can see the historical revenue of that product. So you need to think about it like this. You're like, if I invest in this project and will the token go up or not? In this case, there's no token. So you're saying, okay, I'm actually betting on the project doing well in the future, really. And right now, I think it's making about 1,000 to 2,000 SWI every day in revenue. This is not volume, this is new. So 10% of that gets routed to Tide backers.
Okay. If we take a tangent here, so like right now, it's really hard to have, we talk about faith, conviction and all that. Right now, it's difficult to have conviction in crypto. And you are one of the persons who really use AI to build in crypto. People are saying, if you look at CT timeline, there is no CT after Nikita killed it, basically. But at least if you look at the timeline, everyone's saying crypto is basically dead. And the sentiments are all-time low. But you are still building in this space, like on Sui, but you must have a thesis that crypto is here to stay. And what is that thesis fundamentally? Not Sui, but crypto in general. Why right now you need to have conviction? And right now is the time to actually stay here and inform yourself or build or make the best out of it.
So agents need to pay people, right? Or agents need to pay for things. I feel like crypto is that perfect match. And if you ask me, I feel like Sui's best fit for AI, for the AI boom anyway. When it comes to payments, I feel like Sui and fast L1s, and the only thing that comes to mind is Sui, right? And even if you're building in crypto, you don't have to just build a crypto product. You can still build an AI. Like if you want to build an AI product, you can build an AI product, but then you need to think about, okay, do I want to enable payments? And how would you enable payments? You wouldn't use Venmo. You wouldn't give your agent Venmo. So USDC would be like a natural fit. So I feel like there's going to be a whole new wave of products that we haven't seen yet. And they will be like AI and stablecoin products, I think. So how could you get your agent to do things on chain through DeFi protocol? And that's actually something I'm looking at the moment, right? How do we give agents wallet capabilities? And how do we get them to do things on chain or just pay for things easy? So I feel like crypto's here to stay. I don't see it going anywhere. I think it's just going to go strength to strength. And I feel like AI is going to enable that as well.
So you see basically as two sides of the same coin. If AI is the future, then value transfer is also going to be a core of that. You know, if you think AI is automation, it's like it's turning human intent into some kind of output, right?
Yeah.
It's straightforward, it's answering you, but agents go and do stuff, even like in a very limited manner, whatever. You are coding based on agents. Like agent cannot go shopping right now. I think the infrastructure is not ready for that. But still, then comes the part of money. Like everything mostly what people do on internet, right? Go to Amazon, buy stuff, or go book flight, go book hotel. No agents can do that right now. I think because the money part is basically missing. Like how are these stuff going to, what are the permissions you're giving? So your thesis is basically AI is here to stay. That is pretty much clear. And if AI is here to stay, then crypto is also here to stay.
100%, yeah. And I was looking at this the other day. I was like, okay, so I actually launched Clank, which is a AI agent-to-agent marketplace, and it was built on Walrus and Sui. But one thing that I think I did really well with that product, so I killed that within a week, right? So I was like, okay, there's no product market fit here. Let's just kill it. I built that in 3 or 4 days, mind you. But the problem was agents to agents are probably a bit too early. And I think this product is way too early for what I'm trying to do. It just creates too much friction. There's just middle management. So why would an agent pay another agent to do work? But what I think I did really well with that product is the onboarding process. And I think this is the missing piece for at least crypto or a crypto product that will get agents to the next level. So the onboarding went like this. An agent would type a command, which would be like a npm install clank, right? As an example. And that agent would then get a wallet, a USDC enabled wallet within 2 seconds, and it's sponsored, right? Because an agent still needs some sort of coin or some sort of, let's call it SWI, to actually generate a wallet and actually transact on the chain. So I created this smooth contract that would be the onboarding process. So the agent just needed to type one command, and I had a bunch of SWI in this smooth contract that then the agent would call, and it would generate an address on chain for them, and then give them a bunch of commands to do on chain. So this was already out of the box and open source. So anyway, I've basically killed that whole product. But what I think I'm going to do is I actually honestly think there's something there. And I think adding a few more features and figuring out what that product looks like. But the missing piece, I think, is the agent onboarding piece for DeFi. And wouldn't you like to be in a car, for example, and you hear about, oh, crypto just crashed, and the agent calls you or pings you and say, hey, by the way, SWI's down 20% today, would you like to buy? And it has that capability to buy, and you just say yes or no, and it makes that assessment for you based off your risk profile. And you give that agent the capability to do, and it needs to have DeFi access or DEX access, just on-chain access. And you need to teach in today's world, you need to teach that agent how that stack works, and what these protocols are and stuff like that. But if you create like a wrapper for them, like a CLI tool that does all that for you, then it makes it super easy for the agent to interact with that chain. And I think one of stuff like that, tools and infrastructure for agents that actually enable them to do things on chain, is probably the missing piece right now.
And why do you think SWI is the best position to be the fundamental infrastructure that enables something like that?
It's cheap and fast, man. It's so fast and just really cheap. So why would you want to spend 10 times that on a different chain? That's the bottom line. Speed, and it's cheap. Look, with SWI, there needs to be a little bit more innovation, I think, on SWI side. And I think now is a really good time to start building stuff on SWI. And once we start seeing different products and services come about, then that will have its edge as well. Yeah.
And do you think there's also a part of this, because of the object model, the access controls and the guardrails? Do you think you can have a more concrete guardrails for the agent or agentic activities on SWI compared to something like EVM or SV?
Yeah, that is true, but it also boils down to the contract they're interacting with. So if they're interacting with a SWI LEN, for example, or another DeFi protocol on SWI, you already know that they're safe, but how would that agent interact with it? They're going to interact with it through some sort of wrapper. And at the end of the day, it's just calling the smart contract. But I 100% agree, right? In my eyes, I think SWI is best fit for safety.
And have you explored the other part of the SWI stack, Walrus or Seal or Nautilus, and you can see that Miston has a thesis about their products.
Yeah.
You can, it reflects on what they are building. So their fundamental thesis must be, they are building this, and not only blockchain, but they believe that you need much more than a blockchain to actually build products using that infrastructure. And basically, I think that's what's reflected in what they're building. So have you tried those products, and what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, so I've tried Walrus. I built the first version of Clank, which is the agent-to-agent marketplace on Walrus. So all tasks were verifiable storage. So you couldn't tamper with the actual task itself. That's one of the only products I've used outside of obviously SWI and its stack. I have yet to look into Nautilus, and I started doing a deep dive on Deep and Tide. So how can I integrate Deep Book with Tide? I have a call with Aslan, so I'll bounce off a few ideas. But they've really made a full stack for you to do anything, right? And it's just, you need to figure out what you want to build first, and you need to see how you can integrate these other pieces. But in my mentality is like less is more, and just try to build a really good product. It might not need these tools or Walrus or Nautilus or stuff like that. Just build what's the killer feature you want to build for, right? And just try to make the product as smooth and as best as possible. So that's how I look at things. Just product first mindset. It might not need the full stack, but it definitely needs a compute, which would be the Sui blockchain, and a decentralized of that.
And one of the interesting things, like you talked about Deepuk and what the mission is trying to build, it's really interesting in the sense that they are creating like bootstrapping is like sometimes a really hard problem for these DeFi projects. And I think they're trying to take away that overhead from builders using Deepuk. What are your thoughts on Deepuk?
I've looked at it a bit. They've got, so for Tide, for example, I was thinking about using their Flash Loan library. So Deep's got a bunch of different libraries you can use, and Flash Loans was one of them. For example, so Deepbook, for example, the Flash Loan mechanism that they've got actually fits good with Tide. You could borrow through supported pass, use that Sui to then use elsewhere, but you could wrap it up in a nice, elegant way in one call. And yeah, like I said, I haven't spent too much time on Deepbook, but I know that they've just launched margin as well. So you could borrow through their margin pool to then provide liquidity to your customers. In saying that, I'm going to just switch gears 1 second, because I just thought of something that I think really actually helped that we don't see anywhere else, right? So you talked about Cannibal earlier, right? So Cannibal is the prediction market.
Yeah, I loved it, actually. It's pretty cool.
One thing I did that I thought I'd mention is so I created this bet slip. So you could pick multiple positions, 5 minutes on the Bitcoin, 5 minutes on the Sui, and then it creates this bet slip. And you can decide to bet for both those positions on chain. But under the hood, it actually creates one transaction. So you're bundling multiple calls under the one transaction. And it's not two separate transactions. It's actually just the way the front end computes and then creates this call in the back end. It's like we call a PTB, which is a programmable transaction block. But that's a good use case, and that's a good example of how I'm using the Sui stack, right? It makes it super easy to do these elegant transactions in one call. So you're not bundling multiple things at once and then having this slow kind of user experience for the user. It just makes things super easy and super smooth. And you're just doing everything in the one call, which I think is actually, I haven't seen that anywhere else. So I just thought I'd call that out and actually give you a real example of how I'm using their PTB.
Yeah, and I think that's a good way to dig into your newest product or project, which is Cannibal. It's a really, like, I tried it, but tell me about Cannibal. It's a prediction market, but it is with the tweak. So what is that tweak?
I went to Polymarket and I was like, hang on, I can't get to Polymarket. It's just not allowing me. So apparently it's geo-locked for 50 different countries, including Australia. I was like, hang on, that's not right. Like, they're the biggest prediction market in the world. How are they geo-locked? And I was like, okay, there's a gap there. And I was like, why is that possible? They're like, why are they geo-locked? And it turns out that they're a registered company in America and their people deposit money into their account. That it's not trustless, it's not permissionless. And I was like, okay, I can do this way better. And I was like, let me just create something on Sui, and basically just spec it up in a day. And then I started building it, and it's 4 different smart contracts, and it's completely permissionless, available everywhere. And I wanted to do something not done yet. And this is basically a permissionless prediction market with 5 minute markets, 5 minute up or down markets through Bitcoin or Sui. I originally launched with 5 coins. And I was like, okay, let's just scale it back a bit, try to grow the system first. But so that's the whole mentality. How can I create a seamless product that always yes or no on the markets without any kind of friction? And Sui let me do that. And I used the programmable transaction blocks as well to make it even smoother. And it's just a simple front end that calls 4 different smart contracts. But there's a few things that go under the hood. To make this a really good experience as well is because, so another thing with Polymarket, they resolve with a committee, right? So everything is committee based. So it's not based off like an oracle. And Pyth or Pith is actually on Sui, which is like a decentralized oracle. I was like, okay, this actually can be done properly on Sui, and everything's decentralized. I don't have to worry about a committee. I don't have to worry about registering an entity. I'm not taking people's money. It's all going to a smart contract. So the risk is, it's like, I can actually do this properly without getting into trouble. And that's how the whole idea came about. And I was like, okay, let's try and build a really good product, super smooth with Sui. I had some lessons along the way. So when I first launched, it was a bit laggy, and that was because the way I've been building infrastructure and products on Sui is, like I said, we have a front end, and then you need to then listen to events on chain. But with Vercel so when you create backend functions, it only lets you call them every minute. So I'm actually calling events every minute. So I was like, okay, I need to fix this. So I migrated that mechanism, which we call a indexer, that indexes on-chain events. And I was like, okay, let's move this to AWS in a event-driven architecture. So that then can list to events every second. So then the user experience sped up, instead of every minute, to see when they make a deposit or a withdrawal, to every second. And like I said, this indexer is just a simple tool that then it just listens to events that then reads the database. So it gives a good user experience. But if a chain is slow, then it will make the user experience slow for you as well. So depends on how fast the transactions are, would inherently cause user experience issues as well. But yeah, that's how the product came about, because I couldn't access Polymarket.
Yeah, it's an interesting story, and I would really love to know. You are like creating new products, and it's like amazing. I have tried some of them; it's cool. How are you thinking about distribution of these products?
So I don't really have a team. Hey, I test out myself, and if I like the product, I just promote it on Twitter and see if other people want to use it. And I've actually applied for the Moonshot program and also for the Accelerator program, which is their flagship one.
Yeah.
I just promote it on Twitter, and people use it, people don't. That gives me a good kind of gauge on if it's a good product or not.
Have you heard the story of the guy that built OpenCloud? And I think he built 43 projects or something, but the last one went viral.
Yeah.
So if in your opinion, the distribution is basically Twitter. So you talk about stuff, and if it's like really good, it should go viral.
Yeah, I think if you solve a problem for a lot of people or do something that is just out there, that's how you can get a pretty good response. It needs to be explosive, right? If you can't get the product out there, even if you think it's good, then it's obviously, but like, it's probably not a good product, I think.
And finally, we talked about like capabilities of Sui, what you're building, your thesis on the space and on Sui. Right now, if you look at the space, the blockchain space, the apps that went viral is like Pump.Fun or Polymarket or things like Aave, or these are on like Ethereum, Polygon, or Solana. Solana has an ecosystem and all that. No, it's basically on other chains. What do you think is going to be the moment when Sui is going to have really breakout application that's going to like really go mainstream? Right now, there are applications on Sui, but it's a small niche right now. So what do you think, and like what should happen, or when do you think that something like that would happen?
I don't really have an answer, but and like I said, there's so much opportunity, I think, in crypto right now, especially on Sui, because of the AI movement. I think the missing piece is AI in crypto, but in my eyes, it's more specifically AI in Sui. They've built the chain to scale. They've built the foundation for developers like me, and it's just creative people, ideas people come in and go, okay, I can actually build something that solves a problem for the masses, and I need a stablecoin, or I need decentralized storage, or something like that. And then that's probably the light bulb moment that they would actually build on Sui that would then take it to the next level. But yeah, you're right. Like, there's a lot of copy paste products, dexes and lending protocols across every chain. So there really hasn't been much innovation on any chain really for the last few years. pump fund, yes. Hyperliquid. Again, these are all dexes that every chain has. So what could be the next breakout products? I think, like I said, it's going to be an AI related product, I think, using crypto.
Finally, like, what's your favorite application on Sui other than the products that you have built? What's your favorite?
What do I use every day?
The project that you admire, or this is pretty cool what they're doing.
Cliche bit, I quite like Sleeland because yes, it's a lending protocol, but for me, what attracts me the most and what gets me to use things is a good user experience, right? So if I can go, wow, or if I can go, hey, I enjoy using this, then that's something I admire. And I honestly think that Sleeland has probably got one of the best UIs or user experiences in the space. And it's definitely not looked at it enough.
Thank you so much for the conversation. I really enjoyed it. And I think you are one of the coolest builders in Sui.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Your products are great, even if I lose money playing with them, but they are like great products. Thank you so much for taking the time. It has been an amazing conversation.
Thank you for having me. Have a good day.